Get bigger.
I don't, I'm not even gonna pause it because I'll forget to turn it back on.
That's fine. You get unlimited recording or whatever. Restrictions there.
I made sure we had room and it deleted.
Phone turned off. No ringer anyway.
I don't want to do that disturb.
So have you met my wife, Becky?
I'm not sure if I have it at any of the shows. Maybe yes, I have actually. Yes, I have.
Hi, how are
I
you?
said, hello, how are you?
There you go. You put a beautiful face with a memory, and it all comes back.
So I finished watching or listening to the podcast with Ramsey yesterday. So
cool.
he's brilliant.
Yeah, he is. He really goes deep, and whatever he's focused on, boy, it goes right down the rabbit hole. Yeah, I've known him for a long time, and first started off just like buy a washing machine from me, and then it just kind of we evolved. So
Okay.
yeah, it did. So well, I'm excited to get to know you better, and continue to walk with you. So that's going to be great.
Absolutely.
Is there anything that you don't want to cover, or we should shy away from? I thought about that this morning.
I mean, I feel like as being transparent, no hold bars, just ask what you want and I'll answer as I can.
Okay. So we got a lot. The way Becky does it, she's our editor, so gives you and I a lot of freedom. If we get to a spot where I think, oh, that's stunk, I should have never said that, or whatever you feel, just say it,
Okay.
and she can edit that all out.
Yeah.
So it gives you and I, we don't have to be like, okay, we got to be perfect on the whole thing because we're not live.
Okay. Did I freeze right now on you? It looks like
Yeah.
Yeah.
see.
But I can still hear you.
Yeah, and that's not a big deal because we're not using video really.
Okay. Okay.
I like to have the video up just so we can see each other's expressions.
I don't know why it froze.
There you go. You're back now.
Yeah. I'm just trying to keep it all in one same screen. There you
There
go.
you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the editing is a good thing. It gives you and I a lot more freedom to kind of roll.
Okay.
Usually I kind of start out, I'll say, hey, welcome to our podcast. We're glad you joined us. I'm Steve Arendt. Today I have a very special guest, Walberto Vasquez. I got to get that.
There you go. But my name is a tongue twister, that's for sure. It's not easy.
I usually just start off by saying, hey, welcome. What can you tell us about yourself? So, and then that kind of goes from there. So,
And pauses are okay. They're actually helpful in editing. So if you have to pause and think, that's totally fine.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I don't know. Should I say, I always do our podcast where we explore better business, better lives, but that's kind of repeat,
Yeah.
isn't it? I realized it this morning. Okay.
Talk about your gal. You go straight to it.
Okay. That's awesome. Okay. You ready to roll?
I'm ready.
Okay. Hey, welcome to our podcast. We're glad you joined us. I am Steve Arendt, and today I have a very special guest, Walberto Vasquez, joining me from the tent company down in Houston. Roberto, did I get that right? Is the tent company, is that how you say your name and your company's name?
You said my name right. A lot of people don't get that right the first time. Yes, officially the tent company, but sometimes we go or as the tent co to make it easier. I think I had found that online, 15, 20 years ago, there was a company in Los Angeles, maybe that was called the Tent Co. or the Tent Company. I know Eureka had, it was called Eureka the Tent Co. exclamation point at one point. I don't know if that still exists or not, but yes, we're that's what we call ourselves, the Tent Co.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us. I know you and our relationship started when you bought a washing machine for me. I don't know, was that 6, 7, 8 years ago? I don't even remember.
I think it was the year right after COVID or the year of COVID or 20, I think it was 2021.
Okay.
But it's a full circle moment for me because you remember how I told you that my father used to work at Festive Tents, which is now it's called ITS through the Boltons.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember how long ago it was that they bought their first machine, but I remember when I first went into their warehouse, and maybe I was a teenager, maybe I was still in college, I can't remember. But I remember seeing this, big round circular, machine. And I remember I asked my father at that time, he's like, "What is that?" He's like, "Oh, it's a tent washing machine." And I'm like, "What the heck?" And I didn't know anything about it because I wasn't in the industry yet. I wasn't really involved. I was still playing college soccer. So, here I am, and 20 something years later or 15 years later, I can't remember exactly that was, but um, that's full circle moment right here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow, the Boltons, that goes back almost 30 years. They bought one of the
Yeah.
very first one. And for our listeners, you may have remembered from our earlier podcast that Steve, had gotten my start really in the tent rental business, and I rented tents out. And one of the pains that we had in the business was keeping our tent tops clean, so these big pieces of fabric clean. And I developed a washing machine that would wash these. And if you listen to my first episode, you know my story. It was the washing machines that became my second business that we started selling them to companies like Walberto's and the Boltons at ITS there. So, as we get this podcast started, these are the people that are in the network of my business realm, many of them. And I've come to know different people through conversations like Walberto, and they tend to line up with my journey and my journey of exploring the values of your life and understanding how the business might be able to serve that, and constantly trying to understand that scale and how to keep that balanced out. And the more I got to understand Walberto, he's got a very awesome story and a great background that really amplifies this. And Walberto, maybe you could start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself. What's been your journey? How did you get to where you are? Uh, Whatever you want to share. So give us some background about why we're sitting here talking today.
Absolutely. So let's how old am I now? I'm 36 now. Okay, so let's rewind 36 years, 37 years ago. Um, my parents are from El Salvador. During that time in the early and late 80s, there was a very bad civil war going on at that time. So you can imagine a country torn apart, guerrilla warfare, a lot of poverty at the same time, no real opportunities. I mean, it was a pretty bad situation over there, to say the least. My parents immigrated to the United States in 1989. I was luckily blessed, born here in Houston. My mother was, she crossed the river as or swam the river, however you want to say it. And like a few weeks later, I was born in Houston. At that time, obviously, my dad was maybe 20, 21, not really sure what he was going to be doing. Obviously, they're trying to, as everybody who comes here, they're trying to get a better opportunity. Most, want to actually do the right thing. So his journey went from working from Popeyes to churches to you name it. He was just trying to work and figure himself out in the United States as a new immigrant and obviously now a father. And I think it was in 1991 or 92 is when he first started working, as a tent installer for Jack Nance or Randy Moore. I can't remember the exact name of the company. I think, but that was his journey into this. Um, And for most of that, he went obviously from, I think in that culture, he would stay from one company until it got acquired or merged with another. So he went on to work for, the Festive Tent with Tim Bolton back in the day. He's worked for Aztec. He's worked for Carl's that is now called Arena. And it wasn't until 2012 when uh, Carl's at that former time, they decided to close their shop and move back to operations in Milwaukee, I believe it is, and then another branch they had in Orlando. So he had a situation where he was like, I don't, he didn't want to move. His family's here, both sides of, like, at least my family, my mom's family is also in Houston. The majority are here because they're all either, whether you say escaped or left the country because of the war. Majority is here in Houston. So Houston is home, El Salvador is home. Um, and sometimes when you leave, with at least my family, when they leave a torn, war broken place like that, you want to do better for your family, and like anybody else, the United States, Houston for us was home.
Well, that's an awesome story. I mean, your father came over, escaping some kind of dark moments, some tough moments, looking for a better life, and dug in and found himself early on and stuck with it. And here you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then in 2012 is when he made that decision that he didn't want to leave. I had just finished playing college soccer in Dallas at a university named Southern Methodist University, SMU. Um, I graduated with a bachelor's of economics and finance. I was trying to, continue this dream that I had of playing, soccer, pro soccer. My father was also a soccer player. My brother's a soccer player. My grandpa was a soccer player. It's in my blood. Um, Unfortunately, it didn't work out. Going professional was pretty hard. Even MLS, the level is getting better and better and better. And so I was kind of stuck in this little, like any postgraduate, you're kind of laying around at home, not doing anything, waking up at all random times of the morning or even afternoon for some. And my father was like, this is when he was still at Carl's. He's like, hey, come work over here. They need help, right, for a few months or something. So I went in to Carl's as like an inventory manager for no max more 3-4 months total. And that's I think they already knew they were going to leave to Houston or leave Houston to go back to Milwaukee and Orlando, but that was kind of like my introduction to like actually working in tents. Did I learn a little bit? It wasn't enough time. But I was always involved in the sense that even as a kid, I used to see him install these huge 40, 50-meter structures. He took me to see the Super Bowl install over in Dallas one year. And he was traveling quite a bit with large companies like Carl's. So I would always see him. He was, showing us pictures at, military camps, the Olympics in Vancouver, just all sorts of, crazy and wonderful installs all around the country. So he's been a hands-on guy as an installer, a driver, a tent manufacturer, a tent repairer. I mean, he was everywhere. I think the reason he became successful is because he basically practiced all aspects of the tenting world. Um, and I guess for me, when I kind of saw some light in what was the future for our family, whenever Carl decided to leave and my father didn't want to go, was, he probably didn't have the structure, the English, the, proficiencies to potentially make a sale or, approach people, approach companies. And I think that's where I kind of came in and I'm like, I need to help this guy because this guy is talented. And I'm sure like him, there are many, many, many around the country and around the world for sure in this industry. So that was our start, our chance. When they left in May officially is when we started our company. And it was, basically just a few tents here and there that he had made along the lines, and we bought a few pipe, West Coast style. Um, I mentioned to you earlier that like we had we were just sub renting starting out. It was like a project for me. I didn't know what I was doing. But through his network that he had met, other, managers and owners from other companies that he had worked with, one thing that I still do to this day is I'm always learning. I'm always listening. People are always guiding me, and I'm a sponge. And I still have so much to learn from everything in this industry, and it's growing fast. It's growing the right way. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts from that have just kind of emerged in our industry, and I think it's great that there's really bright minds out there that are really trying to change and innovate this industry, because this industry is awesome, and I don't think people across the board, and let's call it just in general, when you say, "Oh, I'm a tent guy," people don't give it the respect that it deserves. I think this work that we do is it's not just making events happen. This is construction, this is engineering, this is architecture, this is all of those things put together sometimes. And even from the very beginning of event planning to the very end, when a company has to come in and strike, and it's a master plan of things that have to work to make an event actually happen. So
Wow, that's a great story. It sounds like you were on the outside and got to watch your father growing up. And so by the time you hit and made your way to Carl's to work with them, you understood the scope of what the rental industry was all about or what he was doing. And in 2012 seemed to be kind of a magical moment in that kind of almost serendipitously, your life and his life collided because you were headed one direction for soccer and he was heading one direction to continue his career. All of a sudden, his career dried up because it moved, and your career dried up in soccer for various reasons, but almost within months of each other. And
yeah.
you went to work with him side by side to figure out what you were going to do, and then his thing dried up. So you looked at each other and decided, hey, wow, I can help you, you can help me. Your dad had the skill set, your dad knew how to put it all together, but you had the skill set to be the front end of the business. So that's kind of if I were to kind of summarize all that, that's what I see.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was. I'm not saying to discredit him that he wasn't capable of doing this on his own. Um, but I think we as men, sometimes our egos, sometimes we want to say we can do it all, and sometimes just either asking for help or wanting help is something that we all need sometimes. We are the some we do. I do think that we sometimes always want to do it all ourselves, and we all catch ourselves in that, right? We want to be the tech installer, the manufacturer, the driver, the accountant, the bookkeeper, the logistics person, the event planner, and sometimes we have to, and when you're very starting, we all have to do all of that. But I think in our situation, it was kind of it was a dire moment for us, because we came from a world where he was still, the tent driver, lead crew guy. My mom was a maid. I just graduated from SMU, had a little bit of school debt. My brother was in college, also playing college soccer, and my sister was in college. So there was a situation where whether you look at it financially or whether you look at it in, where we are and we're in our phases of our each life, like my parents, the kids, it was like it's a now or never moment that I felt. And I remember my first interview was with it was KPMG or EMY, I can't remember where it was exactly, or Chase. And I went in there to the interview, and I just kind of, great offer for a 21-year-old, and I said, I can't leave my father hanging like this. And I just kind of thought of all the trips that he would show us his work, and how happy he would be, like, oh, I manufactured this time, or I led this install. And 10 was his life. And I don't know, it hit me. And I remember I left that meeting, that interview, and I actually declined it. and I said I'm going to go full force with this project with my father, and like I told you last week, I don't even know how I got here, 13 years later. So,
Well,
so
you did share with me last week when we kind of talked a little bit that the amount of money that you started the business with and how
yeah,
that kind of worked out.
it
So
was, uh, you know, I remember maybe a few $100s, probably combined with all of our accounts, and whether you call that our parents were put everything on the line for us to make sure that we got through school, which happens everywhere, or they weren't planning well, whatever the case may be. That's how we started, right? And I think it created a sense of hunger slash interest. A project is, I have a little bit of creativity side with the photography in me. But I have felt that little spark that, hey, like I can help my father, embrace and, nourish his skill that he's learned in the industry from, various, talented companies and manufacturers, crew leaders, tent leaders, all that he got to work with alongside. And I'm hoping that he's able to do this with our current employees, and our employees do this to the next set of employees, and that's how it goes. We're always meant to be learning, always meant to be, helping and growing. That's the way I feel.
yes. Oh gosh, Roberto, there's so much in your story there that you talked about that I just want to like do a deep dive in and spend the rest of the day talking about. It's the passion of this podcast to really to build a tribe of entrepreneurs and people who run businesses who really want to understand what they value in life to bring themselves a better life and build a business around that so that that business will serve those values for them and understand that as life goes on, things change. The business has got to get better. They've got to learn new skill sets. They've got to tweak and tweak and tweak that business as their values in life change and keep moving on. And everything about your story, it just reeks of in the best way possible of this because I'm just going to regurgitate what I heard back, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. But I hear a deep sense of value in family. I mean, from the moment your father and mother, immigrated over here, and their dedication to the family and providing for you all the way through college and doing whatever it took to get there that family value, it seems to pour out in you when you decided like, hey, I could chase this job in the corporate world because I have a college degree, but no, my father needs me, and something pulled you into that to say, wow, I think there's some synergy here between my father and I think we can make it, so that value of family, I just kept hearing in everything you talked about. I heard a value in you that says I'm always learning. I want to just lean forward and learn and learn and learn. And right with that, you talked about this ego that men have. And I am passionate exactly with what you're talking about there, that men, there are so many days I wake up and say, look at me, I can do it all. And it usually takes me about a day or two to realize that I tripped over myself and I can't do it all. And it's much easier to bring other people into my life, whether I'm learning from them or I just admit that I'm not good at something and I allow them into my life for the synergy to start happening. And together we get a lot more done than I can by myself, because
So
there's an old adage there that says, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with other people. And within that is everything you talked about. It's this family, it's this sense of learning, it's this sense of synergy. Everything about your story is just so awesome in that you talk about this sense of, having maybe a limited amount of money resource to start this business, but it sounds to me like you really leaned on this value and your gut feel that you knew it could work. You knew that your father knew how to put up tents and do all the work required to bring the product to the market. And you knew that the life that they gave you allowed you to go out and sell this because you believed in your father, you believed in your family, and together you didn't worry about the amount of money you had. You just worried about putting your nose down, grindstone, do the hard work, join our hands together to nurture that family, to nurture those values, and then the business came. I may
yeah,
be putting a lot of words in your mouth, Does that sound about right? Does that resonate?
Yeah, I mean, it's never easy. And if to some it may come easy, hey, fantastic. I think some people are probably more talented than others and probably have better ways of connecting with others. But in my situation, he was the mastermind. I was trying to understand what this world even meant, you know. Uh, so like I said, I, I took a lot from under his wing and also the wing of all his call it networking or friends that worked in the industry within Houston before I attended my first ever like ARA or IFAI show. Um, and you know, like I said, it felt like a project. Was I doing the right thing in the sense of safety? And no, at first probably, I wasn't. But as anyone that ever enters in the industry, you probably aren't doing the right thing at first. You have to attend some of these conferences and showcases and learning classes that they do at the conferences to adapt and kind of put yourself in a different perspective of why is this company out in New York doing this, why are they using cement blocks, why are they using this type of anchor, and a lot of those things that maybe he already knew but he maybe didn't know how to teach me or how to I need to cut that I didn't say that right. Uh, but do I start over or just keep talking?
Whatever you want to do.
Oh, okay.
We can edit that little piece out, no problem.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, what I was trying to say is, a lot of what I was learning at the conferences, perhaps was something that either I was so fully like nosedive, just trying to make it happen with sales that I wasn't putting the proper focus on like the safety aspect of these tents because at first we were doing just frame tents and a little bit of structures here and there. Um, but yeah, I feel that you have to kind of expose yourself out there, you put yourself out there to learn, and then ask the questions. If you don't ask, you're not gonna find you won't get different perspectives or ideas on why people are installing tents a certain way or making them a certain way or details about why they're making stuff a certain way. So that was a lot of the beginning, let's call it like spotlights or fundamentals that I was learning at the beginning because I didn't know the difference. So I feel like for anyone who's listening, definitely attend the shows and the conferences and as much as you can because there's brilliant people out there that are there willing to just to talk to you and help you with these questions because we all start somewhere. We don't, majority of us don't just start at the top. It's and if you do, fantastic, but um I think, like I said, it's a full circle moment. I'm here with you, right? And whenever I bought my first machine, I remember I said, "Oh my God, that my guys are so happy," just in the sense that they're not in the sun with their, you know, their washing tents on the floor, with the mops and the brushers and everything. And this is a night and day of a learning curve that potentially I just one because I couldn't afford it at the time, but two, I didn't know that this was also a life-saving slash economically efficient choice or decision for us too. So
You had said to me last week that you went into business and you really earned your MBA just living a life of business and leaning into it and doing all the stuff you talked about, that kind of sense of learning. Um, you talked about the sense of going to shows to learn, the nuts and bolts of how to the best safety practices and things in the field and that. But then you also talked about this sense of becoming a better business person, right? What are my efficiencies and things like that? You started in 2012, so that was what, 12 years ago?
yeah, something like
Yeah.
that.
Can you talk more about that MBA that you earned or continuing to earn? I don't know if you feel like you've earned it or you're on to your PhD,
No,
How have you become a better business person? What have you learned? How to run a business better, and where were some of your successes and failures?
I definitely think that no, I don't have the PhD. I think there's still a lot to learn in all aspects. Even my father to this day is still learning new techniques on how to weld something, how to sew something, how to cut something, whether it's a machine that does it now for you or a program that draws it out for you. And it's not just all on your mind. I mean, it's the same thing for me. I feel at first, it was like everything was just by, handwritten piece of paper, go to this address, then got into like actual proper systems and, you know, good shuffle and, QuickBooks for the accounting, so an actual accountant does everything correctly. And that's what I mean. I think what I've been learning year by year is that eventually you want, like I said in the beginning, you want help. You start delegating the help. You get to a point or a climax within your reach that I'm not the best at the bookkeeping. I'm not the best at the logistics. I am not the best at installing potentially the structures, or I'm not the best at, welding this special curve that my father wants with his manufacturing team. And so like, the delegation, I think was probably the first lesson that I learned, that it's okay to let go sometimes. There are people that are better than you at some things, whether it's the creative side, the marketing, the sales side, maybe even a simple skill as someone who can drive a 24, 26 foot, flatbed truck. There's guys who can do it better than others. And, and that's what I mean. I think I, I will honestly say that there are a lot of points, like even right now, where we're kind of divided into two, where the manufacturing has its own, small little facility, and the tenting now it's in its own little facility. So I'm kind of handed one of them, one to each person to kind of run the show with each, the order supplies, the admin side on both. And I felt like I had to get to that point because I also was starting to, at a point I was trying to do everything together, and I was kind of like losing focus on one and losing focus on the other. And sometimes when you get, you kind of, how you say, like not strained, but like your head just gets too spaced out between both of them. You have to put, like systems in place, which is the systems, either people, the programs. And that's what helped me, is by letting go of more, to be honest. uh, and I was listening to the previous podcast with Ramsey, and he has so many valid points that like I still want to get to that level. And I know, and that's where I go and admit that like I possibly don't think on this logistical operational way the way he does. And it's something that I would love to learn and probably get into potentially in the future into 4C a little bit more, because like I'm sure it could help me with both sides of my business. So yeah, that's where I feel with that. I think I feel that when you start delegating some work and it starts working without you, I think that's when I feel that that's when the business is actually running better. And I'll get deeper into that here a little bit, because within this 13-year period that we've been in business, I actually moved away to Denver, Colorado for like 4.5 years or so. um, and that was another kind of pivotal point for us, where it was when COVID hit, and then we had to, kind of like the whole world did, it was like figure out what are we, what is our identity, what kind of company are we. And honestly, a lot of the time that I was out there in Colorado in the mountains, gave me some insight, some self-reflecting on what it is that I wanted for the company. And also really ultimately brought me back that, my family is my nucleus, whether they work here with us, or they have the same belief, but also that the employees and the tenting network is like it is another part of my family too. Um, I know that there's a business side and there's a family side, and sometimes you don't want to mix and blend, but at the end of the day, the people who help you move, whether that's the sell or the people who supply you, like it's a chain, it's a connection, it's a family, it's a network. So that's the way I feel about that.
So did I hear you right? And said around 2020, you were able to go off to Colorado to do some reflection?
I actually moved in 2019. So I moved in March 2019. So it was like a full year before the actual pandemic happened. Um, and I got to, I was, more on my personal side. I felt like I was losing control of like we were growing and I didn't know how to like, space things out, organize things out, delegate stuff out, or there was also this like tendency because I liked a lot of the control, we're talking about the ego earlier. I liked doing everything and it was burning me out. And so I remember I woke up in 2019, like around New Year, like a day or two after New Year's, and I was like, I'm moving to Denver. I'm gonna see if I can push manufacturing west a little bit, but also I just wanted to see how that would, reflect on myself, moving away slash putting more responsibility on other people on certain tasks that I knew I always had to do. And it's probably a radical decision to do, but it ended up working out for the best with everybody. I feel like relationship for myself within my family got better because also working with family is not the easiest either. There's pros, there's cons. But my time in Colorado was, and I think I heard Alex talk about it on the podcast Under the Vinyl, I believe. There's something of a connection with nature that you just can't explain, being out there on the mountain and you're hiking and you're camping and you're trying to disconnect. And in our world, how often do we disconnect? It's very difficult. Very, very difficult. And that's what Colorado gave me, whether it's a small little chapter for me, but it gave me the ability to connect and disconnect like I couldn't here in Houston. So, but it also, I don't know, gave me some self-reflection that yes, I have a lot of responsibility. Yes, there's a lot of family involved. Yes, there's two growing chains in your company now, and but that the nucleus of everything is the family, and that's whether I can't say that it pushed me away, but it ended up bringing me back to Houston because I wanted to be closer to the family, and I I realized that I do enjoy doing this with my father. I do.
Wow. I spent I was like 16 years in an organization called EO, the Entrepreneur Organization. I talk about it frequently because it was a organization that really changed the way that I look at life and I look at business. Entrepreneurs from around the world kind of walking the same walk with looking to do the same things. And I have some friends who they every quarter they call it getting air. And what they do is they get on an airplane, they go somewhere. They don't really care where it is, but they go there for a week or 2 weeks or whatever, some period of time. Everybody's a little bit different. But hearing your story, it's the same thing. They get away from their business, they get away from their life, and it's time for them to stop, settle down, and really focus and understand what's important for them and getting that alignment uh, under with what's important to them with the rest of their life, not only their personal life, but their business life. And they come back and they're able to adjust things accordingly. But getting away on a periodic basis for them is really, really important.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, you were able to do that. You did it in a much larger scale. And
It was radical.
yeah. Or would you do it again? If
Absolutely, absolutely,
okay.
absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a sacrifice that comes with it, right? I flying all the time? Yes, I was. I had some actual, benefits with United thanks to my cousin. So I was able to fly, let's call it domestically for free. So that was another reason why I was able to do that. So I was flying back and forth from Houston and Denver quite frequently, and to wherever else I needed to do for sales or and whatnot. But it was I think it was also a time period where I was lucky that the pandemic happened and things, kind of slowed down in the sense of this urgency of every single weekend it's chaos of installs, installs, installs. It slowed down for everybody. But also helped me identify like what are we as a company? Like what are we a tent install company? Are we a manufacturer? I know that we do a little bit of both, but it kind of spearheaded me in thinking that my father's true like very art or skill is the vinyl. It's like what he can do with it. Well, whether it's something standard or custom or patio rest. I think anything that you put in front of him that's something related to vinyl, like that man can make. And so that's where for me it was you know I think during the pandemic when everybody in this industry was like, what are we going to do now when we can't do installs and we can't do festivals or anything anymore. And so manufacturing was kind of like our savior, to be honest. And all due to relationships and a little spark with some time clarity of trying to decide what to do with it, kind of helped us move forward and grow. And that was the crazy part, is that even though I was away, I mean, I came back during pandemic for a few months and then I left right away on a 10-day little, it was a trip all around Utah, the 5 national parks. And I was hiking every single day, with limited service, which I think only at that time you could do that. Um, it was great for me because I got to really think about like the direction of my company. Because even though people think that, like I heard you say last week, you may be on the couch, but you're thinking for 6 hours and you're writing notes for 6 hours or whatever all night. I'm hiking, but I'm processing all these things in my head of like, how am I supposed to do this? How am I going to do this? Any no other way than like when someone goes for a run or is a marathon runner or a hike, swimming. You're thinking a lot of, you're trying to process things out. And so I mean the nature Colorado aspect, kind of like Alex was talking about in California where he grew up in, it helped me a lot with making some decisions on what we were as a company. Because every other 5 6 years you have to start moving or pivoting in a different direction to grow, right? So that's what, for us, I think we're more of a tent manufacturer. Call it, we don't sell the aluminum. We replace vinyl, we customize sidewalls, we customize tops, roof panels, um, restaurant patios, gables, you name it. Anything that's vinyl related, we do. And we really try to spearhead that out, here in Houston and Texas, and little by little, around the country. But we're nowhere on the scale of these juggernauts that do amazing stuff. I've always been inspired by them, by Anchor, Losberger, Fred's, Aztecs. I mean, you name them. There's fantastic manufacturers out there. But I just felt that with my father's skill, um, it needed to be nourished, and that's why I took the jump back in 2012. So
Wow. That's awesome. You're speaking to me in your story, and I scratch started a tent rental business back in 1997, and in order to scratch start a business or start a business, you got to go through a phase where you just out there and you're doing the actual physical work.
yeah.
You're sweating and the phone rings and you get an order and you got to take it because you don't have any money. No matter what it takes, you got to get it up and you're kind of forced into doing things. And that's just the way to get it started. And my father and my mother were great mentors that way. They both came from a blue collar family and they both made, I think they made vows to themselves that they were going to make a better life for themselves. And so that sense of, that doing the physical labor, the hard labor was instilled in me growing up. There was never a day that went by where my family was really sitting and relaxing. That was a foreign concept to us. We were always on the move, whether it was playing hard or working hard. We did either one of those very hard, you know.
Yeah,
full
yeah.
throttle. And so when I went into business, that's the model that I knew. And your story resonates with me because there became a point where I actually hired employees and they started watching me work. And I would get very frustrated with that. Like, I'm paying you. Why aren't you working? I assumed that they would know how to work or know what direction I wanted them to be in. And it took me years to really realize that the onus was on me because I made an assumption. They knew what they were supposed to do,
Yeah.
and then I had really realized in order to grow, I got to do exactly what you talked about. Not only delegate, but I got to bring them in and create some alignment within the family or the group of people there. For me, I later termed that team for various reasons, but I had to create an organization that wanted to follow where I was going. And the first step in that was a change in me. I had to be the person to change because what got me here was not going to take me there. I had to
Yeah.
learn how to become a leader. I had to learn how to take the time away and be okay with that, to understand where my company's at. Like you talked about, every 5 or 6 years, there's going to be a pivot, because life changes, things change. And are we still aligned as a company? Is my team still aligned? Is this company still serving my values? And that transition from getting out there and doing what many people call the hard work, what I call the sweat, the physical labor, to this transition of leadership and becoming a leader where I could give myself permission to sit on the couch. I still wrestle with that today. I absolutely do. There are mornings I wake up and, oh, the shame or guilt will just overcome me and I just got to go out and work hard. That's the answer.
Yeah.
And man, I'm so wore out by the end of those days because I'm in such conflict internally and because it's not who I am today, but it still comes back and plagues me. You're like smiling at me and laughing at me.
Well, because I don't know if it's a generational thing. I mean, I what you said just now is something I've been trying to get our manufacturing department, because one of my uncles also is involved. A little background on my dad's side of the family is all of them, all of my uncles, all of I love my aunts. They all had this background for some reason that they all knew how to operate sewing machines. They were always making things. They were always, and like, I don't know if the word is artisanal, but like they were always doing something with their hands or something that involved a machine, a needle. They were always making something. My uncle has a background in manufacturing linens, and he still does it to this day for various linen companies around Houston. So, but I till this day, whether I'm just trying to have them train the new, manufacturing team and whatnot, I still can't get, like, if they're just sitting and they're just like kind of watching, supervising, it won't last more than 5-10 minutes before their hands are on a machine or they're on something because they just can't sit still. So, and I don't know if it's a generational thing or they feel like I'm not doing anything. Like, what am I acting? What is this? So, and I think it's something that I just can't get out of them, and maybe it gives them purpose. Maybe they want to help, and maybe by visually the other employees are learning from what they do, their tactics, little things as what kind of foot movement to do on the knee, on the needle machine, or why are they cutting this in this way, or why are they handling the vinyl this way, etc. It's something that I've tried to get out of them and I can't. It's getting better little by little. Something that we kind of, which I heard what you said about, like, you start working and everybody's looking at you and you expect them to be at the same pace as you is, and maybe people do this or not, but like, for example, we train our guys both to manufacture and to install, so that whatever you're installing, and this is how my father mainly learned a lot of the manufacturing deficiencies, is why a webbing wasn't welded or sewn on a specific way, or why wasn't there a D-ring here, why wasn't there a keter that was covered correctly at the end, or a double reinforcement at the very ridge, where that's where most of these companies, or in our industry, are tearing the keter. Why wasn't there specific tools or adjustments or reinforcements in different places? And it's something that we've kind of instilled into our guys to pay attention to those details so we can kind of see why are these deficiencies happening while when we're installing, so that when they come back, whenever it's, depending on the time of the season, because for us, summer is very slow here because of the heat. It's crazy. So they're like in the manufacturing helping us out, and they know, oh, this is exactly this point where this happened to us at this event. This is where we need to add something here to reinforce and help or make it stronger. Hey, what do you think about adding this here, or, or like another layer of welded vinyl here? Maybe it helps us smoothen out, and that's how he learned, and that's how he was able to bring this into his own world of manufacturing. So something that we try to do is teach them both, because whether they stay here or if they want to make their own business or they want to leave somewhere else, and they have another set of skill that they can take with them. So that's a little bit about that. But I agree with you. It's hard to sit still, and not like lose your mind because you feel like you're not doing anything, so then you feel not accomplished with that. But
Yeah.
sometimes giving yourself some space is actually working too.
That's hard. I mean, that's hard for me still, that giving yourself some space and defining that as work, because it's not the way I was brought up.
Yeah, yeah,
That's okay. It's okay not to be sweating and still call it work.
yeah, yeah,
It's okay that you are sitting there, creating alignment with your team and thinking about how to do that, or bringing people in and having a meeting for that, or any one of a number of things that leaders are called to do. Really, do I break a sweat anymore because, I'm putting people together, or, organizing things or things like that. And, it's not a right or wrong thing, because I know many successful people who own businesses and run businesses that sweat every day. At the end of the day, they have the resources they need to support their lives. So I can't say that's wrong.
yeah,
But there is another way also, and I love what you said earlier. I wrote down letting go to get more. I think you might have said that, but that's what I wrote down. So
yeah,
every
yeah,
time in your story that you let go of something, you actually got more.
yeah,
And folded in with that was a sense of family. You keep bringing it up, but not only I delegated to some others. I trusted them, right? And I let go. I backed out. They did well. People go out and they find new ways to manufacture things. They come back. I've created an environment for them to share that. We can build our product better. We build a better team. Every time you let go of your ego, I just keep hearing it in every story you're telling. I went away. I actually left Houston so that we could get better. And so one of the things that I wrote down here, like in bold letters, it says, you said, when it starts working without me, things get better.
yeah,
And I'm like, oh my gosh, when it starts working without me, how hard is that to do? This is my baby. I created it. I want to stand on the
yeah.
mountaintop and have everybody praise me about how good I created this thing. But you're saying, no, I'm going to walk to the bottom of the mountain. So when it starts working without me, now I know it's awesome. What a
Yeah.
paradox. I mean, that's an awesome statement.
I mean, I have two good buddies here locally, Darren and Jason. I think you sold machines to both of them. They were always like, "What are you doing? Get back over here!" And and they're right to a certain degree. But it was, to me, it was wild because the company was actually growing while I was not here, and part of that, like I said earlier, was a lot of the responsibility in the team, that they didn't just have to depend on me for every single question or every single supply order or they're like, you know what, we can figure it out too, right? And it wasn't that I wasn't doing anything. I was always wired in or connected. It didn't matter where I was at. I had my computer with me. It wasn't probably the most ethical or you know, right way of working, but I was always wired in some way, right? Very few hikes where I ever remember where like I had literally no connection to anything, and that felt really good. But it was always on my mind. I mean, it's not like I was ignoring it. It's something, when it's your baby, call it this. You don't. It's really hard for you to like not ever think about it. You're always thinking of how to make it better. Hey, this isn't working, or you know, what kind of program do I need? Or, hey, this person, you know, recommended this. I should probably try it. Let's try it this week, you know, and that's how, you know, whether managers, owners, whatever position you're in, I think it's good to try things. And I was, I guess, kind of lucky in a way that I didn't, you know, I wasn't married, I didn't have any kids, so it was an opportunity for me to do this, you know, to leave that way. Um, and a lot of people did not understand why or what, but you know, whatever I explained to them, it just had to make sense to me, you know, and whether that's selfish or whether that's me thinking about myself and my time and my mental health or, you know, whatever situation I was going through. You know, I felt like it was the right thing for me to do. And you know, now that I've moved back, I'm married, there's a lot more responsibility. I have an awesome wife who supports me with everything that you know, I'm doing. And she understands that, like, I have this mind where sometimes I just need a little bit of time to, like, you know, disconnect in with the mountains, whether I'm skiing or playing golf. Like, I think you owe it to yourself with how much this industry takes from you, and you know, depends on you, and requires of you to operate, you know. Because as I'm sure you remember, during busy season, September, October, or November, whenever it is, depending on the year for people, like, you don't even have time to even, like, eat sometimes, you know. It just goes. So yeah, for anyone who's listening, I feel, make time for yourself more than you think sometimes, because it's good for all sorts of your health, not just physical or mental, but everything, you know. Um, Clarity is good. Clarity is a good thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's um, you talked about kind of a new season of life. You're now married and family, and
Yeah,
uh, you got a growing business. You got father still involved.
yeah, yeah.
That's somewhat new for you. How's that going?
You know, whether you call it balance or responsibilities, I think it puts things into different perspective. Can I say that, perspective now? Um, you know, before I was all in, and, you know, I'm not saying I'm not all in now, but all of my time and energy was going into in this business, right? So there were days where I was working from 7 a.m. and I was on the computer all the way till 11 at night or 12 at night, just either drawing or emails or trying to build this website, or, you know, all sorts of things, right? The whole 27 components that it takes to run a business, or however many there is. And now, you know, I have to be a little bit more time conscious with that. You know, if you give your time for your partner or your family, your dog, your kids, whatever it may be, um, I think that balance, you know, helps you have a sense of structure within your own life. If you're tilted all in one way, and the other side's going to suffer, right? And I think I listened to you about the moment with your child, and I'm sure that when that happened, you were like, I got to change this now, right? And that, you know, to me, I haven't felt that yet because I don't have any children, but I definitely understand that when, you know, there was a good while in I guess my journey with this company, is that a lot of friends weren't seeing me because I was just, you know, stuck in my office, or, you know, at the end of the day, I think I wasn't even seeing myself because I was just so, you know, divulge into this. So, you know, I think the marriage life now, the family life, the business life, the, you know, athletic, soccer, you know, whatever world that I still have there, like, I do enjoy having a balance with all of it. You know, I try my best to keep a piece of it for myself because it keeps me mentally sane.
Right. And that's important. I mean, it's really important to be mentally sane. You know, I think about gentlemen that I know who have passed, and they didn't necessarily talk about the stuff you're talking about, you know, and they spent all their life at the office. And, you know, I walk by their grave and it's like, I don't see the bank account sitting at the tombstone, you know.
Yeah, no,
Um,
doesn't
I got
it
some
doesn't go
guys,
with you.
it doesn't go with you, but yet the tension for me always is it's easy to say, well, forget all that. I'm not gonna chase it or whatever the vogue word for the day is, because at the end of the day you need it. And I really believe that as entrepreneurs or people who run businesses, you know, we're called to create these businesses, and the extra money that we might get or resources that we get or stuff, um, not necessarily a reward, but it comes with it,
Yeah.
and it's a gift, so
Yeah.
so to shun it, to say, well, I'm going to go off and hike all day long or sit on the couch all day long. No, there's to me there's a responsibility to both. I have a
Yeah.
responsibility to go hiking. I have a responsibility to go play soccer. I have a responsibility to my kids, but I also have a responsibility to lean in the gift that I've been given, as this person who can create, because with that comes, not only the resources that are going to come to me that I got to spend responsibility for my personal life, but the resources that come to me to build an organization that others can be a part of. In your case, your father, your employees, and all that, and I think that I love the word you use, responsibility, that it is a responsibility, and that sense of responsibility is bigger than any balance that we can talk about, because a balance to me just refers to, like, well, if I spend an hour in my family, I got to spend an hour in the business because it's balanced, right?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
to me, I love the word you use, responsibility. I have a responsibility. I've been given this gift to create as an entrepreneur. I've been given this gift to build. I've been given this gift called marriage. I've been given this called family and children and father and mother and all that. And how do I walk with that gift every day?
Yeah.
It's much deeper than just calling it balance to me.
Yeah. There's privilege and there's pressure with having the ability to facilitate all of that, right? I really look up to individuals who build these mega companies, short time, fast time, long time durability. Sometimes I like picking their brain on what they did, and it's fantastic that I sometimes feel that I'm in a very small business size, maybe 15, 20 employees, depending on time of the year, where I feel like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then I hear about someone who has 120, 200, or 80, whatever the number may be. And I'm like, oh my God, like there's some talented people out there. And maybe I'm not seeing something, but um, I, I'm not saying I don't want to get there. I want to get there slowly. But it's inspiring to me when I hear stories of other people who are doing this in our industry at those lengths, duration, and at that size. And I hope to learn how they got there or take tips on how they got there. Because I think that's what this industry is always going to be growing and cycling into in new innovations and I really respect that the people who are able to get there, how they do it, whether they own one or two or three multiple companies. It's there's some brilliant people out there, and I hope that whatever it is that I'm doing with my small project here, hopefully I'm inspiring someone else that just started like I was when I was 22 years old, and that, hey, it is possible, even if you only own one 10 by 10 or 10 by 20, and you're washing your tent at your parents' house or your front garage and your offices in your living room, like, because that's how I started, right? And it's a long haul for some people. For some people, it's instant right away because they're that talented. But it doesn't matter where you come from and what sense you come from, that it is possible, just uh, work hard, and that always ask to learn, because there are people out there that are actually they're willing to help you. There's so many. So
Gosh, you pretty much summed up our whole podcast there, Walberto, and it's awesome. You're exactly right. I mean, you set out working out of your garage and your living room, and you had a vision that it could be done. You had everything you needed, including the extra couple $100 to get started.
yeah,
And you leaned in it, and you continue to lean into it. I can feel it in your energy and telling the story today. It's the sense of letting go, and you're always letting go. it starts working without you. That's my big takeaway from your story
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, it has happened to you too, right? With both of your journeys with your tent rental company that you ended up selling it. Is that what it was that you said?
Yeah. Well, selling would be the glorified word to talk about it. If I want to look really tough and like glorious, that's the words I use, because you could always tell your story a million different ways. But at the end of the day, I had a very successful company, in terms of all the business metrics, balance sheet, profit and loss. My accountant would have said it was awesome. We did really good I don't know, we owned it for 4 years or something like that. But like you, there was just, my gut was calling me, and it was the first time in my life I was that something inside of me was screaming louder than my brain. My brain always drove me. What are the metrics, what are the numbers, what's my address I'm living at, what kind of car am I driving, and that was success. But this relationship, my guts, my soul started speaking to me, and I made a very quick decision and basically liquidated that business. I never really talked about that in terms of that before, but it was the best personal decision I ever made, the worst business decision I ever made at the same time. I can't remember how old I was. You remember, honey, how old we were at that point?
30.
Yeah, I'm asking my wife, Becky, because she remembers all the numbers where we were.
The,
And I
the,
always get it screwed up, but I was about 30 years old, and we left a lot of money on the table. My brother always said, "My God, couldn't you just wait for like 9 months to sell it correctly?" Instead I went to a competitor and said, "You need to buy me." He said, "No." And I said, "Come back 2 weeks later." So you didn't hear me. You need to buy me. And I said, "Meet me for lunch." And I think a week or two later, we had it all done. But that's when it wasn't without a little bit of foresight, because we had built the wash machines for ourselves. I had sold a few by then and realized that I could have a lifestyle business for the next couple of years while I figured out how to be a father and parent and wife and our husband and friend and son. So it wasn't just a jump off the cliff moment. We did have a parallel business that had started that I could jump onto.
yeah, but you learned, right?
Yeah, we did. We totally learned. I'm listening to your story, and they're so parallel, and maybe not exactly the sequence of events, but the attitude.
Yeah, I mean, the way you say it to me right now is like there's the business book side of it where you knew you could have waited, you knew you could have possibly got 2, 3x more because the numbers on your balance sheet or your profit and margins were that good, but you had probably had this sense of hunger or spark in you that you knew you could innovate to do what you're doing now. And I think it's fantastic that I met you, uh, the owner of that first round washing machine, whatever I used to call it when I was a kid. And here you are, like you're that guy that you know sparked the whole change to what someone who I saw my father, where I remember him washing tents, and I washed tents myself by hand, and it's hard, right? And there's still people doing it out there, and that's okay. But I think it's amazing that there are people like you that are breaking this market and innovating with products like this that are meant to make our life easier, because this industry is hard. It is labor intensive. It breaks I remember picking up my first like 20 like a 12 a truss for or a rafter for a 25 meter, and I'm like, oh my God, people pick this up by hand. Holy crap. I was like, dang, little things like that. And then the 10 Talks comes out, and um so I think this is a really cool moment for me to because I remember the first time I met you at the ARA show. You were just like sparkling, you were energetic, you were like you weren't even forcing the sell, you were just trying to get to know me. And I feel like you probably have this touch on a lot of people. So I'm really impressed with what you've done with this machine. It's My guys love it. And I'm sure there are many other things that you're going to continue to do. So this is one of those, like, you kind of like become like an indirect mentor to me, even when I have just questions about, hey, what happened to this vinyl? What can I do with it? To this podcast, and I hope that there are many others that become like you. So
Well, you really puff my feathers up, you know. The people in my office, they had this peacock poster they did, and then when I would start coming in and something was going good, they'd post the peacock, you know. You just posted the peacock, you know, man. I got my ego up, so I better watch out.
Yeah. Let go right now.
Let go. That's the answer. You got it, brother. You got it. But you know, it feels really good. It is good to hear it once in a while, and I deeply appreciate that. You know, because we all need lifted up, and you definitely lifted me there, and it made my day. I definitely appreciate that. I'm looking at the clock too and realizing you and I can talk for the rest of the day. I mean,
Yeah. You
obviously you're passionate about that, and I know I am. Yeah. So I want to have you on in some future podcast to kind of, you know, we get into some deeper stuff here and maybe, you know, get that a little bit deeper. Maybe you and I could take a hike someday. You know,
Absolutely.
uh,
This country is beautiful. There's a lot of beautiful spots to do some hikes here for
it
sure.
totally is. It totally is. So we'll continue. We'll make a commitment to continue this conversation, do a future podcast together as we continue the walk between business and life. Is there any parting words you want to talk to our audience about?
I would say, sometimes you get so caught up in the numbers, which obviously they're very, very, very important because it's the driving force with, you know, taxes, profit margins. What are you actually doing? It's very important. I would say it's probably the most important component. So I would say keep that very organized, very structured. Hire someone that can help you. The second part that probably has helped me the most is I've kind of had like involuntary mentors, relationships with people, call it the OGs or very experienced people in this industry from all sorts of markets of the industry, the manufacturers, the tent installers. So I'm grateful that I've had and blessed that I've had very good people mentor me, or even if they're not even trying, they're just willing to listen. And if you can be that ear to someone who's young or just started, you're doing much more of an impact than you know. And I remember when I was 21, 22, when I started this, and who's going to listen to this kid, right? Like that's what I was looked at. But um, I always asked, and people, they gave you an answer, and you took that answer as, as help or as negative or whatever it may be. But um, you know, don't like don't be too egotistical to not give an answer or not mentor or not give an experience or some type of help, because I think that comes full circle to you. So I think that's a, that the better your relationships are, or the better you're willing to listen and help. Like I think God is kind of like karmic in the sense that like an answer may not come to you for 15 years or 10 years or 5 years, but you'll feel that moment again. So that's the way I feel.
Well, you're playing right into the podcast. You know, this podcast is going to build a tribe of people that kind of vibrate on the same vibe. My wife says it's going to build a tribe with a vibe, you know,
Yeah.
and you nailed it. That's what we're going to be doing. A tribe of people who want to mentor each other, learn from each other, and walk this journey together. So I really, really appreciate the conversation today. I learned a lot. I know our listeners are going to learn a ton and advance our lives forward. So, Walberto, thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending some time with us and sharing your journey and getting a little bit vulnerable. It means a lot. It really does.
So
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure. Thank you for, you know, inviting me to this. I think this is my maybe no first podcast in the tenting stuff, tenting world. So it's, for some people it can be nerve-wracking because you don't know what to say. Things are on the spot, but it's better to be transparent. And I really appreciate you taking the time this morning because I know you have a meeting you got to drive to here shortly. But to everybody who is kind of, as these podcasts keep emerging, there's some awesome stuff out there. Listen to them. Their people they're pouring their hearts out on their experiences and their thoughts and their procedures of how they operate their businesses, and it can really help you. I think it's fantastic.
Well, thanks again. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I'm Steve Arendt. Better lives for better business. Wishing you all a great day.
All right. Have a good one, boss.
See you, bud. Oh, that was awesome. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Are we off? Is it
Yeah, we're
turned
off.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're off. How'd you feel?
Good. I feel like I ramble and I go on for minutes and then like wait, I need to let him talk. But that's how I am on the phone. Sometimes I feel like I was gonna say names, but like with Keith, like we'll talk about like, hey Keith, I have a question about this vinyl, and then I'm on the phone for 50 minutes, like with him talking about something that's not even related to the original first order that I asked or material that I asked. So, but that that's what I mean. Like same thing with Pat and Darren or whoever. Like I there's sometimes there's more than just what you're trying to order about that you want to talk about. And sometimes this person, you just like, hey, you know what? Like, I didn't really bring this up today, but like my wife we're going through IVF right now. And, we were talking about it with Pat and he's like, hey, one of my sons, he was actually going through that or, we went through that kind of situation. And, if that will turn into a 50-minute conversation about that. And, so yeah, I talk too much.
I don't know. Back that didn't sound like it. It didn't come across that way to me at all. Yeah.
Becky, it was a pleasure seeing you again.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
I think I met you in the 2021 ARA. That's when I think I plunged in to buy the machine. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
And speaking about the machine, like we just moved into this warehouse in the middle of our busy season, which was like in April. So yeah, March or April, I can't remember when. Because our city permits and all this stuff here, we haven't used it since March because they have to dig new lines and connect it. And so my guys are going crazy. I mean, it's 98 degrees sometimes in like the peak time of the day here. And they've been they've reverted to hand washing and it's finally hooked up. The city's finally about to permit it like today. So we're like, everybody's like, so happy with it.
That's good.
And I know, but it's been, I mean, what did that thing cost? 100,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that it's not even don't even think about it. It was great. The guys love it. I mean,
Yeah.
it does speed up. Jason told me he bought this huge tank. What about that tank?
Yeah, you were talking about that. So if you want to get more loads per day done,
Yeah.
you want to up your production, and you take a look at what you got now. One of your big hangups, probably, I don't know exactly how you're filling your water with your machine with water, but it might be taking you 45 to 60 minutes just to fill it with water before it even turns on.
Yeah.
So if that's the case and you want to go fast, you want to get more loads per day done, we'll fill it up faster. So Jason's got the big tank that he has. So basically it's like a toilet.
Yeah.
When you flush the toilet, you get a lot of water into to flush all your stuff down. Same thing. So if we put a big tank somewhere near the machine and we either drop it in with gravity or we pump it in, we can pump a big volume of water into your washing machine real quick.
Yeah. He showed me a picture. He was so happy. He's like, I'm almost done with my washing. What's up? You know? So yeah, I'll ask him a little more about it, but obviously you two, could be a thing that we possibly do here too with that because, you know, even as little as we are, there's times where we're having to flip things around and yeah, it probably would help us. Absolutely.
Yeah, it also, I don't know how far along you are in your installation or your transition there, but did you have to bring big pipes over or install special pipes to make that your water system work for your wash machine?
Everything. We chose not to do the electrical route. We chose to do the same gas route
Yeah,
because I thought it was if more efficient and economical and
yeah,
efficient that way. So yeah, the city had to come in and install new pipes. They're actually finishing up the last water pipes and whatnot connection that they have to do, right? They're actually finishing that today. The
okay,
inspection's coming today. So I think in a week this thing will be operational again. So
okay. So
thankfully.
Jason had the same deal. So you've got an on-demand hot water heater you probably got on the wall there.
Yeah, yeah, the wall. Yeah.
So he just used that, and he bought the tank. So he fills the tank just fills up just like your toilet. It's got a little float valve in it,
Yep.
So I forgot how many gallons he's got in there, like 700 gallons or 600 gallons or something like that. So it fills up to 600, 700, 800 gallons, stops, and then there's a little. So you fill up with warm water. Use your on-demand hot water to do that. And then he's got a little electric heating element in there that maintains the heat. So when you go home at night, you come back the next day, it's still warm,
Oh wow, that's awesome.
And then he built one big old rack, so he mounted it up high so gravity would fill it into his washing machine.
Yeah, I saw it. It looks awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything I think I missed the whole like maybe talking about maybe I didn't even think about the political like immigrant slash like Latino side where I feel like there's a lot of others like me that don't have the courage to like go to these conferences and expose themselves because they're not as strong with English or education or whatever. But like whenever I was traveling around and I got to install a lot of these custom tents all around the country or random stuff like I would meet brilliant kids and young same situation where the father was the tent lead guy but the son was the tent owner kind of in a way. And I feel like a lot of them don't know about the shows, don't talk about the shows because they don't. And I remember I asked at the ATA conference in Savannah, I asked, I think it was Michael, I believe. I asked,
Yeah.
like, how come we don't see, I'm not fighting for the Hispanic community, but I'm like, how come we don't see a lot more of the guys who are like the installers, the managers, or is there something for them, that they want to be heard or talked about? And maybe I should have talked about that. It didn't even cross my mind this morning, but I think there is a world of that where some people are just like, and it's not even a race thing, but I think they're just like nervous or don't know how to get to these things.
Yeah.
Um,
I think there's a lot of things that you and I could talk about, that's one of them for sure. From a vendor side of things, I go to the mattress show and actually all the shows, and it's the same people who show up.
yeah,
It's the Brian Richardson, the Stanford Tent, you, Darren, and I've actually tracked it the last 3 or 4 years. I actually have the list and I track it, who shows up year after year and how many newbies. And there's newbies, but if we move the show to a different town, you'll draw from a couple hundred miles out, and those are your newbies. But those newbies don't go to the next one that's, 500 miles away.
yeah,
Most of the people at these shows are the medium or large size companies, to your point. And I really think you're onto something that, why it's really the small guys who need it.
yeah.
But I,
The small guys don't, and I just don't mean tent washer, but it's the whole everything, right? There's a lot of them that just because they're small doesn't mean that they shouldn't be able to get to these shows. I think they also need to see and learn from these educational shows or the conferences that they do and the lessons and uh, compete in the little races that they do, but also just they need to see, hey, this is the goal to get there. This is what this is what you want to get, hope, aspire to. I think
yeah,
that a lot of them don't know because yes, it's far or it's in, the Northeast in Connecticut in November when we're busy. And, it I feel like a lot of the shows are always when the South is busy or when the North is slow.
right,
And they rarely pick a location, whether it's weather or maybe they don't want to travel. I don't know. But
right,
I think there's a lot of companies like how I started 12 years ago that I wish I had gone to those shows so much earlier on. And because I would have learned, maybe I would have grown faster or learned faster or seen these products and changed everything to how we do. And
right.
even to my father, he never knew about the show until we went in like 2017 to the first one,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say that it was blocked from him, but I think there should be a better approach with how to get to the smaller markets or the smaller businesses because they are the guys who really need it.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I think Ramsey kind of touched on something that's a dynamic that's going to play into this, what you're talking about. It's certainly where I'm going. Um, I think the show, all three shows, at the end of the day, they're run by some hired people. They have to be, the staff at ATA or the staff that runs Matra. And you got the key players that are always in there kind of helping, but um, they can only do so much, and a lot of their content gets repeated. And these small guys, for whatever reason, do or don't come or feel, whatever it is. But the use of technology, the stuff that we did today, there's 6 different podcasts going on in this industry right now.
Yeah.
And it allows the small guy, if we can get the small guy to start listening and be a part of the digital community, they're going to find their tribe,
Yeah.
whether it's joining us today or, American Tense podcast, which is a little bit different, or the Under the Vinyl, which is a little bit different. But they'll find where they can thrive, which is these little niche messages out there that Matra, ATA, and ARA really can't get down that granular.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
because of who they are. It's not saying that they're, bad. I'm not at all saying they're bad. They're very needed.
Yeah.
But I could see, because of technology, we can offer very sliver of their business. I'm going to push into, hey, this is how you lead. What are KPIs all about? How do you measure labor efficiency ratio? All the practical side of that, as well as the stuff that you and I talked about today, the soft side of business, and to me, there's a calling out there. There'll be a certain group of people that I can do, and ARA and ATA could never touch that.
Yeah.
You know.
I sense that you're heading in this direction where, kind of like I said in the podcast, that we're like, this isn't just to get like viewers, it's to like, how can I help more people, whether it's be aware of what these individuals are doing, but also like you could probably reach a community. Let's say in Houston, there's 32 tent companies here. I want to say half of them don't have tent washing machines. If they could listen to this or some type of, let's call it in simple English demonstration of how it operates, or how beneficial it is, or just from our experiences, right? Like, I think I feel that you're in this world now where like you're trying to outreach to help more than it is just to sell. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
That's what I
it is.
that's what I feel.
Mm.
Like, you're
Uh,
not doing this for attention. I'm not saying the others are. I think you're doing this because you want more people to listen to a different perspective of like how the connection between family and business, and hey, we all mess up. We all have errors or issues with this. Like, talk about it. So I think it's cool that you're doing this, to be honest.
well, thank you. It's very important to me. I've had many people that were pivotal in my life as I made that journey, really can walk with me on that, what you're talking about. And selling a wash machine's great. I believe in, that's a whole different conversation. If I happen to sell a wash machine because it's great, but that's not why I'm doing it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't sense that at all. I don't.
If I can hit my grave tomorrow and have made a difference in somebody's life, change the course of a generational thing where, some dad out there does have a successful business and can pay attention to his kid and change that kid's life, I'll die a peaceful man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If I do one person that does that. And the older I get, the more important that becomes for me. And I had a moment of God that happened in October, and I took a walk in Spain because the business was taking a turn. We 3x'd it, almost 4x'd it since COVID. And then things were, the COVID bubble was bursting. I don't tell anybody that, but so I walked in Spain and just to get away, like your Denver moment. And I came back with this grand plan, what I was going to do. And it was about a week later that I woke up I took a nap in the middle of the day and I woke up and it was just clear as a bell. Man, if you did this, you merge with your brother, the synergies for everything get 10 times better.
Yeah.
So that sense of letting go that you talked about, that just screamed to me that day. And as a result, oh yeah, the machine company got a lot better. I mean, the stuff that you're going to see coming out of us now is crazy. What happened? I mean, they did quality audits, the more quality machines, and like 6 different ways. Manufacturing process, they refined all that, so the cost went down. We've got something for everybody now. I mean, but that's all awesome. But the more awesome story is I let go,
Yeah.
and then this thing took off,
And
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 I
it's
don't need.
internally as a man, you feel like, "Ah, like I'm defeated because I can't do this alone anymore." And and it should be looking, and I don't know if there's a masculinity kind of battle, internal battle that we have where like we just want to be the guy that does everything and have that recognition internally or with people or friends. But uh, you know, I think it's another way. It's like, hey, I'm humbled that and also grateful that I know I need help to complete this project or complete this, and
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with it, and I've seen my father sometimes where he's like trying to make this crazy custom gable and he's just like, I can't figure it out. Can't figure it out. He'll call Larry and he's like, what do you think? Or he'll call somebody, what do you think about this? He's like, this, try that. And I'm like, dude, it's okay. Like if you can't do it, ask for help. It's totally okay.
Yeah.
Simple things like that. But yeah, I I I think it's been the reason why it's almost helped me mentally too, letting go of things that I'm not saying that I don't need to do, but it's teaching someone else, hey, this is your responsibility. And that responsibility will eventually you'll be teaching this to someone else. And that's kind of how, the waterfall effect goes, where like if you're able to teach someone this, that means your product, your sell, your business. And, I'm not perfect. This is not perfect, but it's a stepping stone. It's a process.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
I'm glad that you feel that way, and you're like in the third phase of this next business kind of world for you, and you're kind of like, I still need to learn, and that's fucking awesome. Sorry, it's not epic, but so.
I'll stop learning when I hit the grave. I'm 6 foot down. I might be done.
uh, But yeah, and any questions you have for me, just call me, and
Okay.
obviously I'll have a buttload of questions. So I'm still trying to figure out how to save that vinyl, but I think I'm just gonna give up on it. There might be someone who's gonna buy that one that has the asphalt snow melted,
Snow melted.
whatever happened to it.
I'll give you a quick I'll give you a quick thing, then I gotta get moving. But I've often wanted to take that. I sell a product called Vinyl Ink.
Vinyl leap.
Ink, INK.
Oh, okay,
It's made by Nasdar, a company called Nasdar, but it's the stuff they use to print billboards with. They've
okay,
got a big ink printer and they print, the billboards, but the billboards material is the same stuff we use. So it stays on. It's like if you spray it on a clean base, it sticks really well.
yeah,
And you can thin it out. You got to buy their thinner, their paint thinner or their ink thinner, whatever the hell they call that. And you can spray it. And I often wondered, like, what if I had a tent top like yours, which is structurally sound, but it's just got all these funky stains in it. And I bought a cheap sprayer like you spray a car with, and mixed that stuff up and sprayed it on there. Could I bring that back to life?
yeah, yeah.
So I don't know that, if you wanted to fiddle with it still.
Vinyl ink.
Yeah, go on my website and then we call it Tico Paint, but you can
Okay, okay.
you can look at the
So
labeling.
so Tico paint with a thinner.
Yeah, I think we still have the thinner on the website. I don't know if we took it down or not. I might have taken it down, but you could, between you, me, and a lamppost, don't tell anybody else. You can go to Nasdar's site, Nazdar. And I think you can buy direct from them too.
Okay. Okay.
You can buy it in gallons. You can buy their thinner because nothing else works.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah.
if you do that, let me know how it works out.
And you know what's funny? My guys so they're in this warehouse where we have a lot more space now. They put like a 40 by 20. They put those two 12-meter tops that were tainted by that asphalt. And for some reason, the sun is like clearing it up a little bit. And I'm kind of, what the heck?
There you
So
go.
yeah, it's like, God, it's crazy what nature does. But
Yes.
um, we just had this really bad flood here in central Austin or like north of Austin, and something I took from I feel like nature's always been in me because of my family living in El Salvador, volcanoes, all this, beaches, and nature always calls. Nature always takes what's theirs back, no matter what it is, people, mountains, roads. Nature always takes, like, like, and my wife explained it to me something like nature is mom, right? Like Mother Nature, like you'll always love her no matter what it does. It takes, it breaks, it kills, it whatever. But at the end of the day, you still love her. You still love Mother Nature. It's
Yes.
wild to think about it in that way, and it's because tragic things do happen, but it's almost like Earth is like recalling, hey, this is mine. I'm putting it back where it belongs.
Yeah, right. Stop borrowing it. It's my turn.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
That's it. Well, Roberto, I got to get moving here. I got to get
absolutely,
done.
get going. You got a long drive, I think, right?
Yeah, we're about an hour, but I got a customer coming in from Florida. So,
Go ahead.
hey, thank you so much.
Thank
Let's
you,
stay in touch.
Becky.
Thank you.
Continue, guys. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.